Most entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, they avoid their numbers out of fear. But what if the very thing you're avoiding is actually the key to your freedom? Money, it doesn't complete you, but it does reveal you. And the question is, what will your money magnify? Hey, and welcome to the Mind Your Business Mentor podcast. I'm Stephanie. I'm your host and your mentor. And as a life coach for entrepreneurs, I use this podcast to help solopreneurs who are stuck in between burnout and breakthrough. Whew, I know that struggle. Boy, do I know that struggle. But we're working on it, right? And it usually centers around three things: a lack of clarity, a lack of time, and or a lack of money. But every week we're going to have real conversations because we're here to learn how to mind our business holistically and master those three areas so that we can live in alignment in both life and business. So last week we talked about the power of decide, the first D in the 5D philosophy. And this week we are stepping into the second D, and that is discover. When it comes to discovery, nothing is more powerful than financial discovery because clarity in your finances creates freedom. Let's be honest, money is not everything. It won't complete your life, but it does touch every single part of it. And more than that, money is a magnifier. It reveals what's already inside of you. So if you're ready, let's walk through my personal journey with money and the lessons that I've learned and on how you can start applying these principles today. Let's get to it. So, this life category was a game changer for me. And it was the first category. After I did my assessment, financial was the very first category that I definitely needed to address. I needed to pay some attention to. Um, I've always ran but I've always ran off of a budget, right? I've always written down either on paper, pen and paper, but most likely I'd say it's 93, 94, that everything was spreadsheets going forward. Once I learned how to do a spreadsheet, it was on and cracking. So I've always ran on a spreadsheet and I've always had a budget. But all it was basically knowing where my money was going. There was no real planning behind it other than let's make sure that all the bills are paid. That's what my budget did for me. But my true journey with money management, it didn't start with those spreadsheets. It didn't start in college. It didn't start in a bank or with a financial advisor. It started at a quarterly conference that I used to attend where a speaker was introducing an idea of bucket budgeting. Something about that really clicked. So you already know. I took that information and I went home and I built a spreadsheet. Because if you know me, you know I'm always building spreadsheets because numbers, they don't lie. And that simple tool became my lifeline. See, when my divorce resulted in me losing everything and I wound up in a shelter, that spreadsheet is what helped me get back on my feet in a way that I never would have dreamed. But wait, don't feel bad for me. Being in the shelter was my choice. I didn't want my failed marriage to be everybody else's problem. I didn't want to live with family members or friends without paying them. And I knew that I needed every single dollar that I earned to rebuild a totally different life. While I was in the shelter on my birthday, I attended the Millionaire Intensive Workshop. If you've never heard of it, I suggest that you look it up. Everybody should attend. They were teaching how millionaires manage their money and about allocations, the same thing as buckets. And I sat there so proud because I was already doing it. That was confirmation from people who had the kind of success that I was aiming for. And not even 6 months later, I learned about the book Profit First, which is an entrepreneurial book about money management. And that shifted my understanding to the business side. Profit First was essential in my allocation system as being an entrepreneur. And it made me realize this wasn't just about survival, it was about building a system that built sustainability. Then my mentor and business partner, Vic Strysus, taught us about the 7 steps to freedom. And inside that, he talks about his system called the RTWCGO, which stands for the R is revenue, the T is taxes, the W is wealth, the C is contribution or charity, the G is general, which would be on the personal side, which would the money that comes to you, and the O is for operating expenses. Again, it was the same principles taught in a different way and more confirmation. Here is what changed everything. One of my teammates on an affiliate syndicate that I belonged to taught me about Relay. For years, I had been juggling spreadsheets and over 9 different bank accounts, business and personal. Imagine the teller calling my name with that stack of account papers in front of them. I would walk up with my phone, which I screenshotted my spreadsheet so that I knew how much money was supposed to go into each bank account. I had to move it manually, and then I did it later on by using online banking. Finally, I had a bank that understood what I was doing. No more forcing the system to work. Relay made it simple. Now, let me be real. Having more money changes some things, but it doesn't fix everything. At one point, I thought because I had the money, I could move it around however I wanted to, dipping into accounts that weren't meant for that purpose, telling myself that I would pay it back. But all I did was sabotage the system that I built to protect me. That put me right back into the paycheck to paycheck cycle. Only this time, I was the one writing the checks, and I couldn't always cover them. That's when I learned the next lesson: don't borrow from yourself. If you dip into the buckets for any reason other than what it was intended for, you break the system that was protecting your freedom. Now, when I was starting off, I was in the shelter and I was making a little money. I was still trying to get my revenue built up to the freedom number that I had discovered. And I figured out the means in which I would generate the income. And then it was time for me to deliver, go out and make that money every single day. But in the beginning, the numbers were small. And some of my allocations could be as little as $2.85. But hear me when I say this: do not despise small beginnings. When I first started using allocations, some of the amounts were so tiny, but it wasn't about the amount of the money that I was putting in the account. It was about the habit that I was building. It was about giving every dollar a job. That habit is what created consistency. And that consistency is what created my freedom. Knowing what you can spend, what you can't spend, where it should be spent, and being in alignment. Woo, now you're cooking with grease, okay? Now, the Bible says in Zechariah 4:10, do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. God isn't focused on how impressive your numbers look. He celebrates when you start, because the start is what creates the foundation of everything anything else. Here's something else that I heard and later read from Rachel Cruz. Money is just a magnifying glass. It makes you more of who you already are. If you're kind and generous, you'll be even more kind and generous with money. If you're rude and self centered, you'll be even more rude and self centered with money. That's when it all clicked for me. God doesn't call us to be slaves to what we have, He calls us to be stewards. It's not about what you have, it's about what you do with what you have. Money will not complete you, but it will reveal you. And that's why financial clarity matters so much. Now, let's talk about why financial clarity creates freedom. Before we can talk about buckets, allocations, zero balance, budgeting, freedom numbers, let's make one thing clear. No financial system works without you working. You have to generate the income. The first lesson that I learned was you have to have the ability to generate the money on a consistent basis. Now, whether that was through sales, consultation fees, affiliate commissions, or even gig work, which is what I did, the system only works if there's cash flow flowing into it to fuel it. On the business side, Profit First gave me the allocation model that I still use to this day. And on the personal side, I've later learned about the SoFi Financial to manage my personal allocations. And my job is simple: feed the income account on the business side. And once the money hits that account, the system does its work, flowing into payroll, profit, taxes, operating expenses, and more. The second lesson that I learned was what I kind of explained already, that business and life is connected. You can't separate the two. But if your personal finances are in chaos, it will bleed into your business. If your business is upside down, it will rob your quality of life. It's all connected. That's why it's important to know what your goals are and what your ambitions are in every area of your life, because all those different things eventually are going to cost you some type of money, whether it be the education of it, to pay for a certification, to get into shape, to eat better, to buy a home, to improve your credit. No matter what it is, some type of money is going to be tied to that. And whatever you are building for yourself, that ideal life, that solopreneur life of freedom, alignment, clarity, and funding, you need to have your money structured to fund those things. Lesson number 3, money is neutral. Money doesn't make you better or worse. It magnifies who you already are. Prosperity will reveal whether you're generous, disciplined, or reckless. Not looking at your numbers keeps you stressed. It creates anxiety and makes you reactive. Facing your numbers, no matter how small or scary, gives you peace and power to plan. It gives you something to work with. When you don't know where you stand, you don't know where you're going to go. You're just shooting in the dark, right? In this next lesson, it sums it all up. Know your numbers. This is where financial discovery begins. Let's do a simple walkthrough. So you choose the vehicle that is going to help you generate money. And after you ran your numbers, you realize that you need $5,000 per month in order to cover all your bases. But we're going to divide that $5,000 by 22 working days so that we can have some days off. And that will mean that we need to make $228 every day on those 5 days in order to hit that number. Now, let's run that $228 through a sample allocation. 50% to OPEX, which is operating expenses. That would be $114. 20% to payroll, which is my paycheck. That would be $46. 15% to taxes, $34. 10% to profit, $23. 5% to contribution, $11. See how it works? Now, clarity breaks these big, scary numbers down into something simple and actionable. Let's look at the number of $5,000 over the entire month and how each category gets funded. Well, hello, we are going to do a money management walkthrough as I'm talking about in this episode.
and this is our business revenue. And we have establish that we're going to do $5,000 a month for this example. So in our Relay Financial Business Banking account, in the income account, we would deposit $5,000, and then Relay, as long as you set up the automatic transfer, Relay will automatically distribute your money into the other accounts. Now, note, these accounts have their own routing and account numbers. They are separated, but they're not like buckets, meaning they're attached in an extension of another account. They are truly their standalone accounts. So you go from the income account, which is where all your money that you generate in your business should go. It would distribute as the following. Operating expenses would be 20%. That would be $1,000 per month. So it'll be $1,000 to run your business. If that's something that fits the bill, you would leave that percentage there. If it's a little much or not enough, you would adjust that percentage. Then we put it at 60% for payroll. 60% of payroll at this amount would generate $3,000 take home pay. That $3,000 is actually $750 a week, which was my set paycheck that I decided to give myself. And as my revenue increased, whether it be quarterly or annually, then I would increase my pay. But I kept my pay at a reasonable amount to ensure that the business would still have the money that it would need to function. And then there's taxes. At the 14%, it'd be $700 a month, and contribution, that'd be 2%, and that would give us $100 to be able to contribute per month. And then wealth, which actually means to invest. This is where your money is working for you. You want to invest in money market accounts, universal life insurance, cryptocurrency, precious gold, whatever the case may be, whatever your investment, the stock market, whatever your investments are, you want to put $100 a month toward that so that it can start building on its own. And then there's profit. This is where the profit first comes in place, because a lot of businesses, whether it be year 1, year 3, or year 5, sometimes it takes up to 5 years before they see a profit, because they're taking their revenue, subtracting all of their expenses, and whatever's left over, they consider it to be profit. No, this is a profit first system where we take our money off top. Pay yourself first. And that's a beautiful thing. So at $100 a month at the end of the year, you're looking at $1,200. That's not a lot, but this is not a astronomical amount of business revenue either. It's just an example. Just like those percentages were a little different in what I spoke on initially, is because those are for higher numbers. Because when you are making $100,000 a month, you don't need 60% of that. This would actually probably, it wouldn't switch, but this would be more like 20% or maybe even 15, because you have a set amount, unless that payroll is not just covering you, it's paying for personal assistances, like a virtual assistant, or someone that you're working with. If you're paying your children, it could all be put into payroll. Um, it's completely up to you how you want to run it. But that's our walkthrough at the $5,000 a month, and how you allocate your money, and why it makes sense that, sorry about that, why it makes sense that you separate your money to ensure that all bases get covered, everything is getting fed, therefore you will eat, and so will your destiny.
You're no longer just chasing money. You are funding your life with intention. Now, do you want me to give you an example of what that money would look like in 6 months and what it would look like in a year? Now, granted, money is going out just as much as it's coming in, but then you can see in each area how much money you can accumulate in each allocation, in each account. It makes a difference. And at the end of the week, you pay yourself and everybody's happy. The employee's happy. The manager is happy. The boss is definitely happy because, she's over there popping her collar. But the system is working. Your financial world has order. Your financial world has direction. Your financial world has purpose. That's power. So, what's our tools? Okay, once again, this is why I created the My Beginning Assessment inside of the NYB community. The financial category walks you through where you are now and helps you create a vision for where you want to go. And when you're ready to put it into practice, I recommend using Relay Financial, the business banking that understands this system. They wrote a book about it. It's the official bank for Profit First. Instead of juggling accounts and spreadsheets, Relay automatically allocates you so that you can stay consistent. Now, granted, I still use my spreadsheet. My spreadsheet is how I know exactly how much money should go. And when things change in my circumstances, then I can change the percentages to match that to ensure that the system continues to work and everything that I am moving forward to and everything that I'm planning to do will take place. It will happen because the funding will be there, my activities will be there, my habits will be there, everything. We're talking about intention. That's what clarity gives you. Clarity allows you to be intentional. What's the one financial number you've been avoiding? And what would it change if you faced it today? So this is what I want you to do. Take the My Beginning assessment and really dig into the financial category. It's going to ask you general questions about how you feel about your financial category. But your feelings is one thing. The next step is to take an assessment where you actually put pen into paper. You pull out all the bills that you owe. You pull out all the assets and the accounts and credit cards and things that you have. You put everything out on the table so that you can categorize it, so that you're crystal clear. It's not a guess. It's not going to be a surprise, and something is not going to pop up and knock you off your square, which is what happens when you don't know your numbers. Once you do that, you're going to calculate what that freedom number is. Then open up your Relay account through the community. Start giving every dollar a job today. When you join Relay under the MYB community, we will help you get started with your first $25 to deposit. You can join the community with the link down in the description. Now, they say that knowledge is power, but in all actuality, applied knowledge makes you powerful, right? You have to apply what you've learned. I took all of these lessons and I did my best to figure out my life. It took a minute. It took a minute to get it all together, to unravel the maze, to untangle the mess. I always talk about a pile of cords or a ball of yarn. It's hard to unwind. And it took a minute to do that. But once I laid it all out and I knew the truth, no matter how pretty or how ugly it looks, how pretty or ugly it looks is not even the point. The point is that you know what you're working with. You work very hard for the money that you go to. You go to your job every day, especially if you don't like your job. Listen up. Especially if you don't like your job. You work hard for the money. Don't waste it. Learn how to structure it so that the money works hard for you. Put it in position to progress you. Put it in position to protect you. Put it in position for purpose, your purpose, and change your relationship with money. This is exactly how I changed my relationship with money. And because I structured my money, every area of my life has the funds that it needs to progress. And that definitely adds to my personal growth, the emotional feeling underneath personal growth. It adds to my relationships. I'm there to be able to take care of my loved ones. It adds to my financial wealth because finances is just like an adult report card. How well are you doing in school as it relates to managing this money that touches every area of your life? It adds to contribution. It feels so good to be able to give without any fear of not having enough for the other areas of your life and having enough to pay this bill or that bill, and it adds to your quality of life. How often do you work, 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 and when you get paid, there's nothing left for you? I pay myself first. I have 5% that goes into my play account. I've renamed it reward, play, whatever you want to call it. But that little 5% goes in there. And then whatever is in that account, I can do whatever I want. Go to a movie, go get a manicure, a pedicure. God knows I need one right now. Go get your hair done, go to the movies, go out to eat, take your friend out so you can kick it, go to an escape room, go whatever it is you want to do. Go to the VR arcade. That's my shit. I love the VR arcade, but the money is set aside. You're not touching your mortgage money, your rent money. You're not touching your car payment. You're not touching your insurance money. You're not touching your children's investments. You're not touching your investments. You're not touching because everything is in its own category, just like your lifestyle categories. They're in separate categories, but they feed each other. Get good at earning money. Put that money into one account. That one account feeds the vision that you have for your life, your personal growth, your relationships, your finances, your business, your quality of life, and your contributions. We're here to live holistically. We're here to make a difference. We're here to live life to the fullest because that is the greatest testimony you could ever give God, is to live your life to the fullest and to bring life just by being you to others. Don't let money stop you. Don't let it hold you back. Get your stuff in order. In order. Let's get it together. Let's mind our business. Till next time, I'm out.